friend or your guru?
Yeah, Guru friend. She's an icon.
Yeah, an icon indeed. No, Prof.
Assalamu
Kabir.
alaikum. You're still running high. Wow.
Not running high, still flying.
Still running?
Flying.
Flying. Oh,
Yes.
flying.
Prof. Azias has had a fall, so yeah, her leg
Knee surgery.
have issues. Yeah.
In all, the ladies outnumber the gents.
You asked Datuk Mus about it. He's responsible for that phenomenon. Rare. Boleh. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to welcome everyone, Datuk Mustafa, the lecturers in the faculties of Economics and Muamalat, lecturer from Faculty of Science and Technology, fellow students, and we have fellow students from finance class today from Dr. Azhari's class. We first and foremost thank Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala for the opportunity to be giving us again Prof. Kabir Hassan to us for session, sharing and interaction session with Prof. Kabir. And we are grateful that this session also is facilitated by the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat and Islamic Finance and Wealth Management Institute of USIM. And Prof, before you deliver your session, inshallah, on responsible and ethical finance, I will introduce you to the crowd today, inshallah. And we have a session, a YouTube session for today's program. And this will be featured in the Faculty of Economics Muamalat YouTube channel. Okay.
So I have to behave. No more dirty jokes. Right?
Yes. No, of course, no. Yeah, you have to behave, that is. Yeah.
She's always careful of that part of me.
Okay, so let me introduce Professor Dr. Kabir Hassan. He's a professor of finance in the Department of Economics and Finance at the University of New Orleans. And he currently holds 4 endowed chairs, mashallah, 4, Prof, in the university itself.
Yes.
In the University
But
of Orleans.
Four legs to have a chair, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can sit.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. That's a good one. So 4 legs. So 4 chairs in the University of Orleans. I think this is not something that is normal, yeah, Prof. Datuk, to have 4 chairs in one university. I mean, to hold one chair is good enough. I mean, all the professors in the US have to be sitting on a chair.
Just little bit over so that you don't overestimate it. What happens in the United States?
Okay. All right. Okay. It's the university's chair. All right. And one thing I think to celebrate is that Professor Kabir Hassan is the winner of the 2016 Islamic Development Bank Prize in Islamic Banking and Finance. So now he is the man that we should be talking when we are talking about Islamic banking and finance. And prior to him becoming professor, in terms of education, Professor Hassan received his BA in economics and mathematics from Gustavus Adolphus University, Minnesota, and masters in economics and PhD in finance from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, for PhD respectively. And in terms of, I think, is it fair to say, Prof, that your strength is in publication as well as advisory? I mean, that is the what people see in terms of what the work that you do. And he has been accoladed by the top 1% researcher who has published in the US, in the world, in terms of the work that he did in finance. And um, Dr. Uh, Prof. Kabir Hassan has sent through Datuk Mustafa 16 pages CV, which, that says that the publication, as well as what interests me is, Prof, is about your um, advisory work with World Bank, IDB, IOF, and so on. Perhaps, during this sharing, you'll be able to share that with us. The lectures that we have here and the researchers on Islamic finance, in Islamic finance, who would like to go into the market and academia to look for and to learn how to do advisory, and as well as to replicate you in a way in publication as well. So with that, Prof, I invite you to deliver your session, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You know, I was in Brazil about almost a month ago, and then the day I was there, it was 140 degrees. I didn't know that. That was my first time to Brazil, and after that, I still occasionally coughing. Hopefully, it will go away because I've been traveling since then from Brazil to Bahrain and then to Kuala Lumpur. So, thank you very much, Zarina. Actually, I know her for a long time. Last time I met her almost 10 years ago at a coffee shop at Kuala Lumpur airport. She was very kind enough to see me because I was leaving. And I also know her from her student days, so that says about my age. So I should be retired officially, Prof. I turned 60 years old. I'm not a young man anymore.
Just turned 60.
Yes.
Still young.
So today, and thank you for coming. I know it's a break time, examination time. Uh, so I just log in. I want to show my slides. So I have a prepared slide. The reason I do this because I want to, keep my chain of thought. We academics, start very soon to start drifting away from the topic that we are talking about. So I named it Responsible and Ethical Finance for Future. So you will find many variety of things that I try to put into this lecture. I bring, of course, starting point, the conventional ethical finance. Then I bring uh, the concept of Islamic finance, and I try to conclude with the conclusion because I believe in it that Islamic finance is the solution. So, in terms of finance, in a macro sense, the connection between finance and growth, I'm just giving a gist summary which has been found by other scholars in the field. Better financial systems bring faster financial growth, and the rogue financial system discourage investments, increase risk, decrease returns. And you have seen this episode in many countries, including Malaysia, Indonesia. Efficient financial systems mobilize savings, prioritizes allocation, and diversify risk. The tons of studies show operational of financial system have direct impact on long-term economic growth. And what is the connection between finance and entrepreneurship? Better functioning financial system reduce interest rates, ease both collateral requirements and information asymmetry problems. And BFFs also bring new firms with innovative ideas and growth potential to the market and expedite exit of low quality firms through the process of venture capital financing. And BFFs reduce the influence of wealthy people to shape credit allocation and increase flow of credit to better ideas. So it democratizes the flow of funds. Improvements in financial system also improves quality of financial services and quality of entrepreneurship. Finance and inclusive growth. The relationship between finance and inclusive growth is not as obvious as this is between finance and growth. Research finds a negative relationship between financial development and both reduction in poverty and income inequality. There is a series of paper by Ross Levin from the World Bank has done it with World Bank funding. Growing body of research proves increasing competition and BFFs bring positive impact in low-income families. One body of research shows deregulation as part of BFFs increase competition and improve financial services. But not all deregulation generates that result. We have episode in the United States 2008 and 9. Many people say that the financial market was too much regulated. So there's a concept called optimal regulation. Regulation on good side and bad side. So you have to sort of find a trade-off and find the optimal amount of regulation that should be implemented in a country. Discrimination and finance. Discrimination affects financial inclusiveness. Low income people do not have access to finance. Certain ethnicity do not have access to finance. That happens in the United States. Remember, United States is a big country. It's a smorgasbord. People from all over the world live in the United States. There are blacks, Hispanics, Muslims, Arabs, Jews, everyone. And there has been studies done usually through the central bank or the Federal Reserve System. It has a 12 regional branches, and each branch has research arm. They look at these issues to make policy. Financial inclusion increases competition throughout the economy and reduce racial discrimination. Research also finds financial reform intensify competition and reduce wage gap between races and income groups and also within the gender balance. In the United States, even though we try to champion women empowerment, still, on the average, for the same job, a female worker earns about 70% of what the male worker earns. Intense competition reduces profit margin, we are not surprised, which ultimately lower the cost of discrimination and ensuring identical pay. And the most important thing, financial innovation. Financial innovation is essential for economic development and is part of growing up any country. Financial innovation fosters both entrepreneurial and economic opportunities. Not all financial innovation happen for the well-being of the society. Sometimes innovation happens simply to evade regulation. And we have heard this 2008 and 9. There's the movies made, credit default swap. Warren Buffett said that is a weapon of financial mass destruction. And we have seen that that is happening. Financial innovation influences human life by shaping the quality of financial services. And it has been found that finance or too much debt also affects the fertility of women because you are too much worried. Because, on the average, in the United States, a college graduate, when graduates ends up with the 40,000 average debt. And with a BA degree in the United States, your starting salary would be anywhere between 25 to 30,000. So you spend your time for 10 years, trying to pay for debt, and you Do not, if you want to get married, have a family, you do not see that. And this thing ultimately affects the fertility. That's why the number of babies born in the United States is declining. And there is also movement anti-immigration. So how do you replenish, declining? So you allow the immigrants to come to fill up the position. But that is also this big, huge political tension in the United States between the Republican and the Democrats. Your country also, I heard, do not give citizenship to anyone. That's not right either. We need to bring the best of best. One of the reason the United States has become such a great country in 300 years because it's an open arm. I come from a poor country, Bangladesh, from a very poor family, but I can make a career in the United States. There is no discrimination in that sense. Really, I mean it. Yeah, there is discrimination when you go to the top, but finding a job, it all depends on your skill set and your knowledge and skill, what you can offer to the company. So, inclusive versus activist financial strategies. Financial system influences the decision of efficient resource allocation. Inclusive financial regulatory strategies spur fair competition, ensure transparency, eradicate harmful policies, and provide credit to support best and brightest ideas. And that's why you talk about entrepreneurship, SME financing. If an idea, the finance should be there, finance should not be a problem. But unfortunately, even though SMEs constitute generating 80% of the employment of any country, but only 20% of the GDP contribution, but they need it because unless you have a job, you do not have an income, you cannot buy things, and that the whole macro cycle starts. Activist financial regulatory strategies foster politically favored ends, greater government influence, greater opportunities for corporation, and support wealthy and politically connected people. So you have a new king coming in. So he has his priorities. So we look at our neighbor Indonesia. You heard about Suharto, the all crony capitalism that happened. Now, if you look at some statistics between, you hear this word banking crisis and currency crisis. No, Malaysia has an episode of this. This currency crisis happened, I believe, is back in 1987, 88 at that time. 97. So, and I think at that time, Prime Minister Mahathir has handled it very skillfully. I give him credit as an macroeconomist. I read how he handled this. That was a good thing. But I want to tell you, if you look at the episode of currency crisis that's coming out from IMF study, on the average, the output loss from a currency crisis is 7.1% of GDP, aggregate 7.1%. And recovery time is 1.6 years. But if you look at the banking crisis, average output loss is 14.2% and average recovery time is 3.1 years. So what conclusion can we draw from here? Currency crises are roughly 3 times more frequent than banking crises. Banking crises are more virulent than currency crisis in terms of economic loss. The banking crisis costs twice as much and lasts twice as long as currency crisis. That's why you see invariably any country you go, the banking industry is the most regulated industry in order to make sure BNM is very meticulous how the banks will be run, and that's why I see a discipline. Unless there is a political influence from outside, and the banking system, even it's conventional, is going to run its own course. Of course, with this inherent instability that we discuss in academic literature. Then financial crisis loss is very high. Look, Argentina 1980-82, 55%. Japan 1990, 20%. Korea 1997 60%, and your neighbor Indonesia 1997 80%. You wonder this power of finance or power of money. Nothing has changed. You have the same building factory because of the financial vagaries, the way we measure output, your economy has reduced by 80%. So this is a concept called financialization. We discuss this very vehemently, debate among ourselves. Too much money is being created, and we have to go back to the reason of this money creation process. So there is a movement even in Malaysia. It's called the gold bag system. At one point, 20 years ago, there was a big conference here. I was also invited. Mahathir came in, and that was his original idea how we can create a system going back before 1973, some sort of gold backed measure so that we can put a restraint on the unlimited credit growth and credit creation because financialization has become so big that there are 24 times more finance flowing around than what the earth can produce. So that is not good for anyone. And in the Holy Quran, the last verses before 9 days before our Prophet passed away, the largest about the riba, about the contract. So these are very important when you deal with fiqh muamalat. Riba has been finally said it's haram. You cannot do this. So we, young generation like you, have to come up with an actually a Sharia-based economy that you need to work hard to establish. So it is not good for only you, it is good for the humanity. Because the Quran, we believe the evolution process, it is a guideline not only for Muslims, it for the entire humanity, and we have to spread that message that way. Of course, we do have our ritualistic ibadah, we do, the Christians don't do that, Jews don't do that, but we can agree on a common principle, the riba free economy, the gharar free economy, and those principles also are enshrined in their books. Then we talk about the Abrahamic faith. I'm also a student of religion in a sense. I read a lot of religious background text. The riba has been prohibited in every major organized religion. So you heard about bubble. What is the typical definition of bubble? What is the law of demand? If price decreases, what happens? You buy, instead of one dress, you buy two dresses, right? So that is the normal downward sloping demand curve. But bubble definition, you buy more of it when the price goes up. So that means law of demand breaks down. So let's say for whatever reason, the bubble develops, the real estate prices are going up, people keep buying more. Then when they buy more, demand is higher than supply, the asset value increases. When asset value increases, in order to support this, central bank or Federal Reserve, the increases money supply or to support this credit expansion. And when credit expands, that fuels further increase in asset values and further increase in credit. So this cycle continues unless someone find out, hey, look, this is not a sustainable, and then whole system start collapsing. So when it does collapse, the banking crisis and currency crisis, we call this twin crisis. Even though it starts with one sector, but ends up with the other one. So let me tell you how it goes. So irrational exuberance, a term coined by Nobel laureate Robert Schiller. And loose monetary policy means the government is printing a lot of money. I mean, not the government. Of course, government is there. But the central bank prints that, to support the government expansionary policies. And when it does, the asset bubble develops because you have fixed asset and the money, more money pumped into the system. So that shows up in the monetary value goes up, and you do your transaction to a monetary price, not the real price. When the bubble develops, and by natural cycle, the bubble also burst. When bubble burst, what happens? The loan default increases, banks become insolvent because have a lot of non-performing loan on the asset side. And what that happens, it becomes weaker and capital starts flowing out of the country because the value of this capital decline. So everyone, we are all human beings and investor, rational investors, so we want to protect the value of our asset portfolio. When that happens, that leads to currency depreciation. That's what the currency crisis is. When the currency depreciates, then import costs go up because you have to pay more into local currency to buy the same amount of goods and services from Germany. Your central bank reserve to defend a fixed exchange rate, and that central bank policy, the credit contraction starts, growth slow down, currency crisis ultimately leads to banking crisis. When the banking crisis happens, if you're a poor country, you go to IMF, World Bank for credit support and policy support. Fortunately, you guys did a good job this 1997. You didn't go to IMF. Those who went to IMF, they suffered for a long period of time. But Malaysia came out of this crisis very quickly, very swiftly, very healthily. So asset price booms and bust. The boom bust cycle is usually broken when the government step in. Standard policy tool of any central bank or the government, you use fiscal policy to stimulate aggregate demand, big infrastructure project and so on, by increasing government spending. Of course, if the government has enough tax revenue, that will support, but many cases the government do not have enough tax revenue. So what it does, that use monetary policy to support this increased credit creation. Now, the growth and financial crisis, there's a connection. Adam Smith, the so-called father of economics, actually he is not. The father of economics should be Ibn Khaldun because he has written many years before him. The Wealth of Nations in 1776, the richest country in the world was 4 times richer than the poorest country. Richest country, 4 times. The richest regional bloc, Europe, was about 3 times richer than the poorest bloc, which is Africa, during 1776. Thus, in 1776, income inequality was not a major issue. Then what happened? So in 2014, we did this analysis. The difference between countries and regional blocks are now the Qatar in 2014, the per capita GDP is 87,717, Congo 334, about 263 times more. If you look at Western Europe and Africa, it is 13 times more. So inequality between countries and regional blocks since the time of Adam Smith has increased tremendously. 3 times and 4 times, now is 263 times, 13 times. Do you know what did it cause? What was the difference in growth rates of the richest and poorest country blocks that accounts for the current level of income disparity? Look at this number. 1820 Western Europe, the per capita GDP was 1202. 2000 it is 19,264. Annual growth rate was 1.62% over this 18 to almost about 80 years, well, 180 years time period. If you look at Africa from 420 to 1474, the growth rate was 0.7%. Look, the difference is 0.9%. So what conclusion we can draw? The small growth divergence over long periods of time lead to huge differences. Financial crises matter because they slow down growth for several years An effective management of financial crisis is like medicine, short-term discomfort for substantial long-term benefits. And that's what some conservative central bankers do and some bankers don't do. Those who do, they come out of this kind of recession or economic malaise very quickly. Now, what's happening? High liquidity situation, reckless lending practice, financial instrument used for risk transfer, leads to credit crunch, and leads to global financial crisis. I do not know how I can read this. I can't even read it. I think I should have made okay. So the mainstream economics, you have a demand factors and you have supply factors. So demand factors you have had speculative Ponzi financing, you have shareholder capitalism, you have expenditure cascade inequality. So you keep borrowing and borrowing. When you borrow, actually the signorage, one group of the citizenship loses their wealth, private, so expropriation of wealth happening. A rising tide lifts all boats. And Piketty, Thomas Piketty wrote a book and he said that if the situation is return on your capital is greater than growth rate, that creates inequality into the entire system. Now, if you look at the supply factor, highly profitable. Why? The low cost of fund and where it is coming from? Because you have the fractional reserve banking system, you have easy money monetary policy, and you have savings glut. And we have this time frame that happened during this COVID time period. If you take even in Malaysia as well, what happened? The government pumped in a lot of money to the system, different incentive mechanism. I'm sure it here. So they have the saving glut. Now, what are the supply factors? You have the low risk, the bank risk transfer through financial engineering. We have all this exotic financial asset. It is shifting risk from one group to the other group. There is also the government not to let the big companies to fail. And finally, you have the FDIC, which protects the bank depositors, and they don't care what the banks do with their money. Now that brings to my next one, impact investing. So we have this global financial crisis. What is an impact investing? So you have like the social business, you have a targeted investment, and you do not really care about the profit maximization. You want to earn a sort of social objective along with some financial returns. So there are four angle to this impact investing. Intentionality of impact. An investment must be made with the explicit intention that the investment have a positive social or environmental project. There has to be financial return. The investment has a return on capital and is not an act of philanthropy. And you heard about Professor Muhammad Yunus. He's championing the concept of social business all over the world. You have a range of asset classes. Investments target a rate of return sometime between below market to the fixed adjusted market rate across asset classes. So you have an example of this type in Malaysia, Yayasan, that what do you call this? Yayasan, the targeting the education sector, not yes and no. This is about to have the improve the quality of primary education. So they invite fund from the public, the outside sector, and they will look at the performance of the student, and if the performance, and they will go forego their rate of return. So I forgot the name of it. Yes and something. Okay, you should know this. Yeah, the Khazana is under Khazana, but this is a yeah. Hasana, okay, good. So you have to also measure the impact. It's not like you give money, you forget. We have to really be accountable. Even God asks you what you have done, right? So if I give you money, at least I should ask, what is your KPI? So, but impact investment is intended to generate positive, measurable, social, and environmental impacts along with financial returns. The emergence of impact investment, the social and environmental. You guys don't like me anymore? I know. As a financial market is relatively recent despite a long history of the social economy, key drivers behind the emergence of impact investment include the changing investor preference. The younger generation, they are really gung ho. They look at the social impact of any project. Look at your son, daughter who are in their teenage or young. Do not think like us, right? They want to give something back to the society. They want to make sure, whatever they do does not impact the environment negatively because they think that this is our shared asset and we need to protect them. Now, if you look at the sustainable investment spectrum, there are different types. We call this. We have grants, we have program related investment, we have impact investment, impact first, finance first, we have the mission related investment, we have development finance, we have the green or social bond, and of course we have the ESG. Let me give you a number how it looks like. So if you look at the grant, is about $75 billion roughly. So where these numbers are coming from? During this COVID, I was part of a faith-based investment initiative by the Oxford Side Business School. So I'm one of the advisors. There are 10 of them. We try to map out, different faith traditions and look at different types of, socially responsible investment fund that lying around. And this is what we come out. I'm just sharing this with you. The PRI, program related investment, and mission related investment, PRI are also included in the 5% grant allocation. MRS could potentially equal the assets of all foundation, approximately 1.5 trillion. Then you have the impact investment, or this called SRI. Using a survey published in 2020, GIIN estimated the core impact investment market size is about $715 billion. Then you have the development finance. The 25 HIPSO signatory development finance institutions could be seen as impact investors with a total asset of $725 billion, and expected risk-adjusted returns are expected to be around 10%. And finally, we have the ESG spectrum. It's a buzzword everywhere right now. And that is in 2018, more than half of all global assets under management followed some form of ESG criteria with a market size of $54 trillion. And some of this ESG does produce risk-adjusted positive rate of return. Some of them does do below market. And it has been found majority of this ESG has produced the below the market adjusted rate of return. Now, what we did in that exercise, Oxford Side Business School, we looked at 7 different religions, and 3 of them are coming from Abrahamic faith, and the other is coming from Dharmic tradition. We're asking, can we, looking at the religious text, can we find some verse or direction that promotes sustainable finance and investment? So what we find that 3 religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, have a very specific principles on investment. So if you read their scriptures, the Old Testament, the Bible, and the Quran, you can find verses which directly points towards that. Then we found Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. You can read their text, not a direct reference, but you can derive from other verses. They also talk about impact investing, responsible finance. Our conclusion is the principle that support impact investment all of this religion. So the faith aligned investment is ingrained, embedded within our culture, within our way of life. Now, if you look at all the religion, then there are a number of papers. I'm sure you have done some PhD work. I have written a number of papers on this using secondary data. We find out of the seven religion that Islam has the highest number of research published. Then we have Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism. So we can draw six conclusions from this empirical research. Investing is not perceived as being in contradiction with religious values. Many people consciously or subconsciously do bring this into their investment decision making. Number two, religious values are important drivers. Number three, there is a strong community around faith consistent investing. Number four, religious investors are pioneering impact investor. Number five, implementing faith consistent investing is not without difficulties. Some of this market you don't have data. Islamic finance, because it is a growth industry, you have the data, you can do a lot of studies, but it's not the same with Hinduism, for example, Jainism. It's very difficult to get data from that perspective, and practice is also very different regions. Now, there are a number of questions you can raise, if you want to do work in this area. The question you can ask, to what extent can impact investment form part of a greater investment strategy for faith-aligned investment? Number two, which parts of the spectrum are currently being used by faith-aligned investment for impact investment? And how much of all faith-aligned investment would meet the definition of impact investment? And this data would also ascertain how extensively impact is being meaningfully measured. So, what is current impact performance in faith aligned investment globally? And what are the demand side market dynamics determining what current impact investment is needed? And finally, what is the comparative performance of impact investment funds related to faith aligned investment? I can tell you, if you look at the masajid, the younger generation are flocking to 5 days congregational prayer, the Friday prayer. That shows that people are becoming, I'm talking within the Islamic framework, that people are becoming religious concerned. So once you start with faith, then you ask about your muamalat, what I'm doing, my finance. So you get a very easy supply of this faith-based investor who are willing to invest into your company. So the Islamic finance industry all over the world is very, very profitable. Believe me, if you have some money, start an Islamic bank. Whether you do it right, that's a secondary question, because you will have a bunch of Sharia scholar. They will, brand it is right, and you leave it, to the Sharia scholar. If something is wrong, they do. It's not you. They'll go to the hell, but you'll be all right. But it is not only you cannot leave everything to the Sharia scholar. It is also your individual responsible to check out what is your money being spent on. Now, let's bring some. There is a famous article came out recently, the Journal of Financial Economics. So, you know that CAPM, I mean, those who come from finance background, then you have two-factor CAPM, three-factor CAPM, arbitrage pricing model, and so on. So, what this author Pedersen did, he said that, look, ESG is important, but there are three groups of investors. One group is called ESG unaware investors. They really don't care what is ESG or not. In that case, they found out the ESG score and the expected return are positively related. They said that ESG, of course, is costly, right? If you want to employ some technique not to pollute the air, so that costs you. So relationship positive. Their second group, it shows that they are very motivated. Not only they know, they're very motivated. They want to make sure this company does not pollute. Right now, as we speak, COP28 is going on in Dubai. There is still fighting with coming up with some sort of communique, and this is every COP except the Kenya one finished on time. I don't think that is finishing on time either. Now they are trying to find out loss and manage some sort of fund in order to have the poor countries, to help them to reduce the pollution. And their entire, industry, carbon trade, those who work in this area and so on. These people, they make us to make pollute, right? What they do, they relocate their production process. Malaysians are very happy, $5 billion coming in, but they are using your country resources, polluting this thing. They are making profit out of it, and they are putting the blame on you. They said you guys are polluting, but we are not really. We are induced to pollute, so you should be, compensating her for using our resources and so on. Again, there is a big politics going on. You're familiar with this, but the point I'm trying to make, how much you should pay attention to ESG. So this is a curve, I mean, from the theoretical perspective, you should develop called portfolio ESG score on the x-axis and the Sharpe ratio, which is the return performance on the y-axis. If you look at A is the unaware, A is the aware, they know about ESG. U is the unaware. So if you can want to bring from unaware group to the aware, the benefit of ESG integration is a 12% increase in SARR. It's good. So advocacy works. Those people do not know, make them aware, then this rate of return from ESG invested portfolio will be 12% more. On the other hand, the motivated one, those who guy, occupy Wall Street, don't let you go there. Even in COP, there are people coming, demonstrating, but in Saudi, I mean, it's the Middle East, that they don't allow, demonstration that much. The lady, this Thornburg, this young lady, 12 years old, she has been absent from the this year COP and the last year COP, but she is a very vocal advocate of the climate change. So that shows that you want to silence the vocal voices. They can talk and they can motivate. So here, if you want to bring from an A word to motivated and actually you take a loss, what it means, the cost of ESG performance is the 4% decrease in SR when doubling the ESG. So the optimal is AWAR, and that's why you get the maximum ESG score and expected rate of return. Now, talking about some real number, usually ESG asset under management is expected to represent 80% of our total asset under management by 2030. And that is about $153 billion, trillion dollar into this ESG spectrum. And this ESG does well. The data that has been done with Morningstar, Boston Consulting Group, if you look at, there is a start of the sell-off, then market picking up, that at the end, during this COVID crisis, the ESG portfolio had 0.8% more than non-ESG portfolio. So it does provide better rate of return. Now, again, what are the key sustainable investing approaches for asset managers? Of course, you do exclusion, then you do as best in class, the thematic funds, impact investing, ESG integration, and finally, the engagement. So if you become a portfolio manager for a company, and if your portfolio is to develop the ESG, you have to follow the steps 1 through 6. Now, in this process, there has been work done. Now, each of these big companies self-report their ESG performance. Now, there has been work done by the Boston Consulting Group using Morningstar data. If you can read, the from the BlackRock. The white one, the top one, the reported score is they said that they have a $650 billion ESG compliant portfolio. But when Boston Consulting Group analyzed the data, they found that only be $190 billion. So the point I'm trying to make, most asset management disclose high ESG asset under management as part of their annual sustainability reporting. And those are the accounting area and governance area that has become a big issue. You need to submit that information. But most cases they overstate. Boston Consulting Group estimates of ESG asset under management using Morningstar data hint that those numbers might be inflated because of lack of standard definition. It's not that they are lying because they have to support. And I'll show you there are 6 different ESG data provider, and each of these data provider uses different definition. They do not have uniformity, so the difference they are reported and actual number is coming from which database they are using. The worst culprit are BlackRock, Amundi, and UBS are the players with the highest divergence between self-reported and estimated ESG. Now, if you are a portfolio manager, the steps that you do, ESG integration focus on embedding ESG consideration across the entire investment value chain. So first you start with conduct research and analyze data. So you collect information, then you perspective generation. So you try to see which one is ESG compliant investment, which is not. And if you look at the, how come it's a small screen here? I'm getting old, man.
You are trying to look. It's big here.
Yeah, you can see it, right? Yeah. I can see it here. Man, something. Okay, so what is the material ESG information identified, collected, and structured? Then you go to the evaluation, evaluate securities. So universe screen, you have the fundamental analysis and you have the security selection. So by that, you get securities shortlisted based on insights from universe screening and fundamental analysis. And this is very common. This is what we do in Islamic finance as well, moral filter and financial filter. And finally, you build a portfolio. And in the build of portfolio construction, then you also rebalance the portfolio occasionally, and you have the portfolio monitoring. So this is the spectrum you use as a student of ESG investing, and you have the data, you have the empirical skill, you are smart, you graduate from good school like UCM, so you make everybody happy by doing the right thing. Now the question is, investors are increasingly scrutinizing the ESG performance of companies. If CEOs know the investor evaluate them on ESG factors, the CEO, the company, not just short-term earnings, they will prioritize these factors over quarterly profit. I mean the pressure, industry pressure, they will look at this. Investors are less likely to sell a company that announced weak earnings if its ESG performance is strong. Investors recognize that quarterly earnings are less relevant measure of performance for companies that take their social impact seriously. So if you're good social, I really don't care whether you giving the maximum rate of return. I'm happy because you are giving on this. So you return, you look at in two different mindset. Total return is financial return plus social return. If you are ESG aware or ESG motivated investor. Now, what are the challenges? ESG performance is very difficult to measure. This leads investors to focus on short-term financing metrics for business valuation. Profits and dividends are known, but ESG performance is difficult to define. So we give you exercise in classroom, calculate the value of the stock, I give you the dividend, I have the growth rate. You have the formula, you just plug it in, you get it. But how do you define, how do you quantify the ESG factor that gets into the equation? Now, how do you solve this problem? ESG rating agencies collect and aggregate a range of information on a company's ESG performance, produce an overall ESG score as well as scores for the individual components. Remember, there are three components: environment, social, and governance. If you look at the data, you'll find there's an extensive amount of research done on the governance. Very little or no is done on environment and social. Part of the reason is this data collection and so on. But they should be looking at this are very important. The social aspect is very important. Environment is very important. And the data is coming out, the new research will show that accordingly. The correlation between ESG ratings across different providers is around 0.3. There are 6 different companies produce these ratings. Their correlation among the ratings is 30%. How about the correlation between S&P and Moody? Is almost 99%. So that's why the discrepancy lies between the reported one and the actual ESG asset under management. So what does all this mean? Should you discard because they cannot agree on what goes into the ESG? Now, ESG ratings are not useless or their providers are biased or incompetent. ESG performance is simply difficult to measure, and reasonable people can disagree, just as some equity research analyst will rank a company as a buy, while at the same time, another investor manager will say it is sell. Some investor may care about electromagnetic radiation, but others may not, and so an investor needs to understand whether the rating takes into account. So what you can do, you as an investor, investors should not rely only on ratings, but they need to deeply understand the management of the company and the strategic context. Investors should delve into multiple sources of ESG information that are not considered by the market, since it has difficulty in valuing intangible factors. Investors, not only socially responsible investors, should take ESG factors seriously. While they are sometimes dismissed as non financial factors, but evidence shows that these non financial factors can become financially very material in the long run. Are you okay with me so far? Do you want me to continue? Okay. Can somebody come and show me how my is a IT guy here? Why can't I see mine thing is bigger? No. No, it's a full screen here. Is anybody here?
So in addition to rating that you'll be sharing,
Huh?
in addition to rating of impact investing that you'll be sharing, are you going to introduce a lot more concepts in this lecture?
No, no, I want to bring the Islamic finance now.
Means the impact investing and now
Islamic finance. Yeah.
application.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. So the finance and economy. Okay. So finance used to be is a means to an end. What was your basic objective? The finance is a glue, right? To serve the economy, to mobilize and allocate financial resources to drive growth and development. And finance prior to the financial crisis, finance became an end in itself. Erosion of the link between finance and real economy. From enabler of growth, it became its own source of growth. So it's supposed to have the real economy, but it became part of its own growth strategy. Finance became a source of instability. derived from long-term value creation in pursuit of short-term returns, deviated from long-term to short-term, short-termism versus long-termism, activity generating trading fees became more lucrative and it moved away from serving the economy. It weakened the positive role of finance on growth and development became a potential for financial instability. So, within this context, following the financial crisis that had global consequences, it prompted global response. What is the response? Wide-ranging regulatory reforms, strengthening a supervisory framework, enhance financial crisis resolution capability, and the global consensus became to add value to the real economy and to serve the society, greater recognition of the forms of finance that are well anchored to the real economy. So, ethical finance and bringing value to the economy, long term orientation protects the long term interest of its beneficiaries, brings value to the economy, and of course, it adopts ESG framework. It avoids high risk speculative activities. It protects the economy from distortions. It increases the potential for efficient allocation of resources. And what is the investment strategy? Maximize both financial returns and the social good. It improves sustainability and overall impact on the economy. So, the responsible ethical finance is a long term oriented investment approach that integrates ESG factors into research, analysis, and selection process of securities within an investment portfolio. And this investment approach considers ESG factors in portfolio selection and management. And what it adopts different screen, negative exclusionist screening, positive best in class, norm-based screening, integration ESG into factors that I explained in the few slides before. So, ethical finance again bringing value to the society. It achieves social good while generating financial returns. It does social good in practice social good. So when I say achieve social good, how social issues are being addressed to optimize positive impact on society, economy, well-being and development, how it contributes back to the community. When we say the social good, provision of specific goods and services aimed at benefiting society, and practicing social good, a behavioral outcome to achieve desired result, inclusion, dealing with the underserved, economic development, and social initiatives. So these are some of the examples addressing the specific social problems. When you say the providing social goods, you provide social goods means clean air, clean water, improve healthcare, improve sanitation, and doing social good means you weapons, gaming, alcohol. Right now, United States supplying a lot of weapons to not weapons to Israel to kill people in Gaza. It's very sad. The greater economic empowerment and inclusion to take into account the impact of climate change on communities, making finance transparent, easy to understand. Now, if you bring now Islamic finance and ethical finance, the value proposition, what are the value proposition? Now, ethical finance outlined the stated intent. Environmental sustainability is one of the goals. The manner and way sustainability achieved, it came from the Brundtland Report 1987. The way they define this, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. And what are the methodologies they apply? The negative screening, ESG integration, shareholder activism. If you look at the Islamic finance, on the other hand, what are the stated intent expounded in the Holy Quran and the Hadith from the principles of vicegerency? Do good and prevent harm by what? Number one, treating the environment in a fair and just manner, moderation, avoiding wastage and excess, treat every living being with mercy. Number four, duty of care to protect and keep safe for the next generation. And of course, we have the Sharia screening processes that you are being taught in your class. You have the sector screening, you have the entity screening, you have the financial screening. So, in ethical finance, the most attention is given to the environmental sustainability, product offerings and instruments, creation of markets, sustainability reports by companies, the accountants do, development of capital market indices. There are many sustainable development index from the stock market. Invest in impact investments, capital directed to clearly defined purpose, exclusion of investment that damage the environment, and application of ESG criteria, environmental consideration included in the decision. So there are support mechanism. You have the Global Alliance on Banking for Values, Fortune 500 Change World List, Dow Jones Sustainable Indices, FTS for Good Index targeted for impact investment. So these are the alliances that has been brought up. They have their own indexes, and many of the doctors' studies or master's degree are being done using the secondary data to analyze the difference between impact investing, ESG investing, and just a simple investing. So each of these things have their own framework or methodology. For example, financial institutions, you have Global Alliance for Banking on Values. You have the United Nations Global Compact. You can go and search them and you can get the time series data to do your analysis. You have the ethical and SRI related services. You have the Green Finance Initiative, SRI. You have the ESG related indices, Dow Jones Sustainable Index. There's a number of indices, many people do empirical research. And you have the FTSE for Good. And finally, you have ESG related capital market instruments, the green bond, principles, climate bonds. So the rapid growth despite adoption of non-uniform approaches. But unfortunately, if you look at only few Islamic banks are reported into these different categories. That means Islamic banks, they do, I say, is a prohibition-driven industry. We only apply negative screening, but we do not apply positive screening that can come from ESG principles. Now, ethical finance, of course, contribute to financial stability because it has long-term orientation, it avoidance of short-term transaction, avoidance of high-risk speculative activities. Governance process is very strong in ESG framework. I belong to AOFI Ethics and Governance Board. So we develop standard and guidelines for the financial services industry. We want to make sure those goals and objectives are embedded into these guidelines. So elements of ethical finance will contribute to financial stability. Now, Islamic finance, of course, it contributes to financial stability. Elements of Islamic finance that contribute to financial stability, requirement that financial transaction be supported by real economic activity. We have the profit and loss sharing, hence built-in risk management. You have a robust governance process, and you have embedded transparency with the Islamic finance industry and instruments, and you avoid speculative or illegal activities. Now, so Islamic finance and ethical finance share common goals. Both have long-term orientation and sustainability, leads to financial inclusion, leads to ethical values, leads to economic well-being for everyone, and it preserves interest for the next generation. Now, there are some empirical work done with definitive data. It has been shown the question is, can significantly improve environmental, social, and governance performance. So, Sharia compliance screening, if you combine this with ESG screening, does it do it better? The answer is yes. ESG scores, if you include along with Sharia screening, it has been found the rate of return is 6% higher for Sharia compliant financial companies, and the rate of return is 10% higher for non financial Sharia compliant companies. Now, Sharia and ESG screening, so there has to be marriage between these two. Sharia and ESG screening show some correlation. Combining these two can improve overall risk adjusted returns. Greater focus on ESG specific screening on the top of Sharia screening would maximize the risk from such exposure. So, of course, there is a potential for collaboration. And what is the collaboration coming from ESG and Sharia? Creating greater awareness, building greater awareness on the potential role of these forms of finance, extensive use of technology, leveraging on the greater use of financial technology, and the standard for culture of ethics and trust, incorporating a more structured approach to build culture of ethics and trust in the financial system. So, the slogan for Islamic finance should be not only for Muslims but for the humanity. Now, I mean, coming towards the end, Zarina is looking at me. Hey, we're going to finish. I've been looking at you since forever. So let me. I have a few more slides to finish. So, what are the foundational principles of Islamic finance? Of course, is rooted in divine law. And what is it? Prohibition of harmful transactions, economic justice for all humanity, circulation of wealth, interest concentrates wealth, commoditization, backed by real assets for real growth. So in Islamic finance, there has to be sale at the minimum level. Otherwise, it's not halal. But more paradigmic version of Islamic financial products, a partnership type of financial products like Mudaraba and Musharaka, but we are not much into this thing. It's a risk sharing, does not transfer risk to the borrower. That means it's a positive sum game, not negative sum game. So if you compare lending in a debt-based economy versus investing in ethical economist economy. So the lending system is a win-lose framework. That means it's a zero-sum game. But for an equity-based, and actually Islamic finance is more towards equity-based rather than debt-based, it's a win-win framework, is a positive sum game. In lending, it creates debt financialization, and it invests in real assets and equity based. Risk is transferred in lending, risk is shared in equity based, unfair gains from profit and losses, just and fair profit and loss for sharing, and rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. I want you to read Thomas Piketty's book. He shows how the capital, the interest system has created inequality in the entire world. And Islamic finance or equity based justice and equity for everyone. So, how does this Islamic finance integrate? Very often we look at Islamic finance only for the commercial perspective, look at Islamic bank, takaful, and so on. But we very often ignore the Islamic social finance like zakat, sadaqah, waqf, takaful, cordially Hassan. So, but it can combine this both sector in an integrated Islamic framework. And the integration has to happen from the commercial plus social. So let's look at when you mobilize resources. If you look at this diagram, you have the corporation, you have the high net worth individuals, you have the rich individuals, you have the middle class, upper, middle class, middle. Then how do they use the system? They go to the Islamic financial institutions, and of course there are sukuk, there are capital and money market instrument. You have to look at in a society there are top 20%, bottom 20%. The top 20% are catered by this group I'm talking about, and the bottom 20% is reducing the gap, middle class lower, economic disadvantage. How do you tackle middle class lower? You have microfinance and micro takaful. And economic disadvantage of the zakat and sadaqah called Zakat and Awqaf, Sadaqah and Qardul Hassan. So what happens is 60%. This is where really you need to, if you want to develop a business model, the 60% you have to come up with a financial product that can help them. With the 60% you guys belong to. Once you get a degree, not all of you will be absorbed by the government, and not all of you will be absorbed by the existing corporation that you have. So we need to bring the best out of you. So that would be like self-employment, entrepreneurship. And the entrepreneurial class, we have to develop financial product that 60% that benefits that. And you guys are the majority. 30%, some statistics show the college graduates are unemployed because the government cannot absorb them or the private sector cannot absorb them. But you have a beautiful brain and mind. All you need, little bit financial cushion to bring the best out of you. Final slide. We want to change the paradigm. Now, conventional in instability, we want to move to stability. From deception, we want to transparency. From deregulation, we want to go to regulation. Value neutral. The whole economics profession started value neutral until this this two Swedish economists, they said no, value is important in economics. So we want to create a system which has a timeless values. So brothers and sisters, that is all. And this is something you can read if you want to learn more about what I said. My presentation based upon materials taken from there. Some of it are mine and some of it for other people. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kabir Hassan, for the sharing. Prof. Kabir has shared to us about value-based investment, impact investing, and how that integration could be adopted or could be made with the Islamic finance, um, not ethical values, the faith values that we have with Islamic finance. And you have shared actually one good slide about what the research of screening and impact investing should be also in the future. So we are in Islamic Finance and Wealth Management Institute, and inshallah could emulate that research and further looking into that. Okay, we have invite him. Our student.
Cubaan satu. Cubaan satu dua, cubaan.
Sila. Tapi suara dah kuat dah tu.
Okay, Bismillah. My name is Mohammad Shakir from Muamalat years 4. I have a question, but I think a little bit run from the topic. The question is, since we are boycotting the company that support genocide, such as Starbucks, McD, and so on lah. So what's the impact to the Malaysian economy?
Very good question. Actually, you see, yeah, this is right. So you are boycotting because they're supporting Israel and Israel killing people. Of course, you are, one objective you achieve, but there is a cost to it. This you are boycotting Malaysian Starbucks, right? Malaysian Starbucks company using Malaysian coffee bean, Malaysian labor, so they are being losing their job, right? So there's always a cost and benefit everywhere. Yes, but we have to do that. Younger generation, you think that, my daughter is every day in New York City. She is every, Palestinian protest she is going to. So you should follow your heart. But there's a cost and benefit. I think the weird part, not the weird part, this irony is that 2 billion people, Muslim, cannot protect 2 million Gazan. We don't need a war. All you need is unified voice and tell you stop doing it. Like in 1973, when that war started, if you remember, Faisal, said that he's going to use the oil as a tool, and everything came to the negotiating table. What I feel very ashamed. By the way, I'm a registered Democrat. I'm a US citizen. I vote. I voted for Joe Biden. But what Joe Biden is doing is unparalleled. I couldn't believe this guy. That in front of him, how many babies or people you have to kill just because to recover this 140 hostages. In Israeli jail, every year it's called administrative detention. They take people out of your home, they keep you there without any trial or bringing to the court, years after years. So some people say, aren't they hostage? Why do you bring them from your house? So you see the world narrative. One good thing happened. Many people say that it is stupid for them to do this. They know that Israel is going to, pummel them to the ground. But this issue has been brought forward 75 years, and Israel has been doing it, systematically to depopulate them, to create their, they're bringing people in. Huh? Occupation, the word, what is settlement? Illegal settlement. This is against the international law. They never really had in their mind a two-state solution and a Palestinian solution. So this thing has been put forward back in. My wife has become crazy. Not crazy. I'm talking about she is watching all these reels and she just can't. But she's telling, I wonder how iman they have. They clung to their city. They do not, and it has been found that the generation after two generations died in one shot. And the world is every time the heinous act of the Hamas, of course, is bad. We also condemn that. But what is happening afterward? Nobody says a single word. That is the humanity double standard. So, it's a very complex question in your heart. You follow your heart. You do not drink Starbucks. You drink a local Malaysian coffee. That's good. But there is a cost too. There are some of the Malaysian workers who lose job. But that is a sacrifice that you do. By the way, we are supposed to talk about politics here, right? I was told the three things you're not supposed to say: race, religion, and royalty. Otherwise, you can say anything, right?
It's somehow interrelated.
They're interrelated
yeah,
too.
so
related to your talk just now.
yeah,
about
related
economy
economy. Yeah,
It's related to
it's
economy.
related.
Yeah.
Yeah, inshallah.
I'm safe.
and we are safe. We are safe.
Prof. Fauzias, you have some thoughts on the
No,
financialization?
Fauzias cannot ask any question. She will ask a very difficult question.
Only thoughts.
What you have, what you have covered, I think is quite comprehensive in terms of Islamic finance. But I think what is actually the current one that I also attended, what we call as the Islamic social finance. They have been talking about Maqasid Sharia. In fact, I'm involved with Maqasid Sharia as well. We have created an index already. So meaning, but the whole what you have been about what you have been mentioning, actually, it is also in the Maqasid Sharia about the justice, about the fair and justice. So, but of course, about the Islamic social finance. But I don't know, because we have also, because the Maqasid Sharia is from the Quran. Okay, of course, all those riba and maisir and all those actually from Quran, and then of course interpreted it as fiqh muamalat. But Maqasid Sharia, meaning Allah create us to worship Him and also to help the ummah, the development of the ummah. That is Surah Al-Baqarah. So meaning to say, it is not being, how do I say, well researched by the academic world, because we, like me, I'm from conventional finance. but I'm learning Islamic finance from this USIM's environment, from the Sharia scholar. We have actually, it's very good. This faculty actually, we have the Sharia scholars, either the ustad we call it or the ustazah. But I am here now. Actually, I'm coming to 9 years with USIM. I really learn a lot from them because I'm learning, non-stop learning. But of course, I just put myself into the research on Maqasid Sharia. So of course, now we are going for the sukuk to looking at the Maqasid Sharia aspect of it. So, but of course, I already attended the Ali Muhyiddin, Ustad, the ulama, Ali Muhyiddin, of course, mentioned about the Islamic economy, and also the Sharia part was very well interpreted. So meaning, but when you talk about ethical finance, but we do not know what source of that. Of course, from Hebrew probably. But the sources, they do not dare to say it is from their Taurat or whatever, you know. They don't say it. It is just from the human thinking, what is ethical and what is not. But the Maqasid Sharia part actually is really from the root of the Islamic what do you call Quran and also the Hadith. But Quran is the main source. So meaning, but this one is not very well. But we tried. We tried now. Actually, we did for PMB on the investment, the Maqasid Sharia. We are creating the Maqasid Sharia in responsible investment or the impact investment. We covered that. But of course, for when it comes to ESG, all the company did well because the report, because we based on report. All did well, but of course, it is quite a comprehensive index where we rely on the what they call the five Al-Ghazali rulings. Okay, so and then of course we go down to Ashatibi and all. So meaning we have to read the kitab. Of course, the main source is Quran, but the kitab has to be read. But of course, for me, I'm not good in Arabic, but of course we have the expert to read it and we translate it, and of course there are many sources. But I think now I realize that there's a lot of textbook on the Maqasid itself from the ulama itself. So, but then I think is due for the Muslim scholars to look in depth on that. I think it is beautiful on the Islamic social finance, especially because it's for the development of the ummah. So I think we should also embed those in the Islamic finance, not just la riba or la maisir or la gharar, but the Maqasid Sharia, it is well systematic. But of course, we need to, we have to know, we have to discuss, and then of course we look into the practicality of it, especially for the conventional finance scholar.
Your thoughts on that?
Okay, one more. Then we end. Because I can see just now you said about what you call the misestimation, the overestimate by the companies in the US in terms of the ESG expenditure. What did actually their security commission do about it? So I think it's quite interesting because they don't really report it accordingly. So meaning there's something wrong with their reporting system in terms of ESG. Because in Malaysia, we have actually the sustainability report. So that's all I think. So thank you so much for very lightening talk. I think I absorb it, and some of it, of course, it is quite comprehensive. Thank you so much for your talk for us today. Thank you. Also, I want your reaction on what I said just now on the Maqasid Sharia especially.
Okay, let me start with your second part. In the United States, there has been a Security Exchange Commission looking at this, the report they are producing, because of the discrepancy of what they report and what from an empirical work comes out. But you cannot hold them responsible of what they do, because they will say, I have used this database. And there is a discrepancy among the different databases. So if you use the database B, I get exactly different result because they are not consistent with each other. Unlike S&P and Standard and Poor, they use very similar methodology. So their ranking comes to 99% correlation, whereas the six database for ESG only 30% correlation. Now, in the case of Malaysia, what you mentioned, maybe you have created your own methodology. You create, yeah, only one, so everybody follows it. So you have the same, every variable is well defined, everybody using it. So that's the last discrepancy. But in the United States, we don't. But Security Action, as we speak, looking into this, whether they should come up with a standard that everybody should follow, like what you are doing. Now, everything that I said, this Makasi, this Ghazali concept coming from the Quran and Sunnah, of course, we do. But unfortunately, we have a huge gap in our curriculum. Like as you said, Prof, you come from a conventional background. So do I. I have never been to any religious school, no religious background. I came to the United States at the age of 19. I've been living there 40 years. I'm more American than Bangladeshi. Then, on the top of this, I have embraced Islamic finance because of my internal urge that riba is haram, garar is haram. And none of my compatriot brothers and sisters left in the United States. They left, they are no longer in the United States. They left the United States, they came to Europe, Asia, because there's a better environment for them to practice. But I'm stuck there. So as a result, one of the reason, I've been traveling all over the world. I spend a lot of time trying to get in touch with people like you, that gives me the thought process, learning from the ustads. So with zero background, I'm coming up with this. But what I face, that serious deficiency in our curriculum of Islamic finance education. When I say curriculum, that let's say if I take, without even knowing you, if I pick Bachelor in Islamic Banking, if you look at the courses that you offer, let's say 10 course, out of 10, 8 are conventional banking finance you teach, right? And you add 2 Sharia into this thing. And you think that it's an Islamic banking bachelor's degree. But it is not really. So what you do when you teach Islamic accounting or accounting, you need to bring the maqasid part, the Islamic concept into it, then it becomes 2 in 1. Otherwise, there will be creating a double-minded people. Oh, I read this, how do I connect this? That connection part we're not teaching in our university. So in order to do this, you need to develop curriculum. And Malaysian Institute, I know because a part of it, they are trying to develop that curriculum, what needs to be taught. But the materials has not been created yet. So you need to create this, let's say, accounting 101, Islamic accounting 101. Then you bring the accounting, because accounting concept like balance sheet, these are value neutral. How you put the maqasid into it so that you know how Islamic accounting should be different or should incorporate the characteristic of Islamic financial product. And that part is very much missing. Of course, sometimes you get good scholar, they do and can show you, but we need books, we need materials, and that part is very much missing. I would urge you, because you are senior scholar in this country, give this idea to the people who make decision. So when they give research grant, okay, let's say Zarina wants to write a book, let's say Islamic social management. So she should be given a time. Let's say I give you 3-year or 2-year leave of absence. I give you 1 million ringgit. Your job is to come up with a book that integrates both sides with maqasid of Sharia, and that will become a book that everybody can follow, and that book will generate another book, that book will generate another book. In the United States, Introduction to Finance, there are probably 20 books everybody is writing. So the competition will determine which is the better than the other. I have written 2 textbooks following this thing. One was published by Pearson. The other one is World Scientific. Recently, it's coming out from Singapore. So we have to do that. Now I know ISRA has done this because ISRA first book wrote 1 million ringgit that got. Ashraf was in charge of this one. I even have a chapter of that. And they are trying to improve it, third edition. But I am sure, I haven't seen the third one, it will be the same thing. They have employed 20 people to write a chapter. When 20 people comes, the spirit is missing, right? So it could be me and Zorina, or if I can do it myself, or 3, so that we have a common and we bring spirit together, we bring makasid, we bring modus operandi together, and that book will be more helpful to the younger mind like that. Otherwise, they will come out of this program with half empty, half educated understanding of Islamic finance. And this is where our research dollar should go in, not writing another academic paper. Believe me, I have written a lot. Sometimes I wonder in my paper, what is Islamic finance? I do it because, those journals, Scopus and ISI, they want a certain way paper should be written. Many often it says, going through like JCF is a very top journal. I have 6 of them, Islamic finance one. I kept Islamic character there, but they try to force you, want to tell you, the review process and editor, that they want to tell that it's no different than Islamic finance. But I want to say it's different than Islamic finance. So that intellectual battle is also going on. And part of this thing that we are really deficient in our understanding, in our degree, in our knowledge of Islamic finance in all academic programs. Why do you have to go to UK? There's not a single Islamic finance scholar. Even with all respect to Mohammed, my friend, you go to there, you try to learn Islamic finance. Mohammed has same deficiency as I do. We do not read Arabic, this and that, and so on. But you see the pressure. Right now, I tell you, I'm the only one Islamic finance scholar left in the United States. We do not have an Islamic finance program anywhere. We do not have Islamic finance institution in the United States. All are hybrid, hanky-panky. And I have 10 students in my department who wants to do Islamic finance. They go back to their country. Then I ask them, why the hell you are here, man? I know very little. You should be going to Malaysia or Indonesia, where there are at least a critical mass, or Jordan, your country, or Al-Azhar. They said the government is pushing them, come to the America. And it is a more prestige getting a degree from the United States. Yes, they will get a United States degree, but very little knowledge on Islamic finance. Yeah, I'll give them a bunch of data set, run this and that, and maybe they'll get a good publication too. But how much they're learning? You ask that question. I asked that question to myself. But since they come, I have to do my half-baked, service to them. So this is another problem, is we have to really get out of this colonial mentality. They have really penetrated in our DNA. We think that getting a degree from the United States in Islamic finance is better than from Al-Azhar, but it is not. I can tell you, I am the witness. Sorry to say like this.
Yeah, truth has to be said. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Dr. Professor Muhammad, Dr. Nihad, you know me before. What I want to say, uh, I want your answer specifically in this gap. There is a gap between, we have different between form and substance, as you say, in Islamic finance. At the same time, we have a gap. And this gap, from the beginning of Islamic finance, it is still there is a gap. But what I want to know from you, did you see that we will bridge this gap, or it will be far away? We need hundreds of years to get
Yeah,
into a pure Islamic finance, because what we have now, as you see, it is like, yani, we don't say I don't want to say that it is fake. Sometimes a lot of product is not uh, a pure halal or pure permissible in Islamic finance. A lot of products are mimicking conventional secular systems. Yes.
okay. First of all, I agree with you. The the original sin that our forefathers of Islamic finance made, they wanted to Islamize the economy. They want to use riba-free economy or the product. So they very quickly they took a model, existing model, conventional banking model, in order to do Islamic finance. The conventional banking model is flawed on its own. Even the people, those who created this, they criticize this because it creates financialization, that creates instability, and so on. So if you take a bad model and if you want to do a good thing, you cannot. The end result will be the same. So as you said, that Islamic banking is totally mimicking industry. We mimic conventional financial product and Islamize this. So you have a pork sandwich, you wrap it around with beef, but the pork is inside. So the tension between form and substance is there. But I would not say that it is haram. It is halal form wise, because the Sharia scholars are the legal scholar. They understand the word, not the essence. They are more concerned that whether it follows A, B, and C of the Sharia ruling, but not the macro makasid. They are more right on micro, not the macro. Now, why that is happening? That is the mindset. So we need to always say that we need this Sharia scholar. I need to teach him modus operandi of banking and finance. Then when he sits down, then the Sharia or ruling or product that he is going to come up with will be more of this balance between these two, form versus a substance. But in order to do this, we need this new brand of scholars, two in one, but we don't have it. Another thing, when a product is developed, a Sharia scholar should be involved in ground zero from step one, not coming to this process at the end. So that product will be developed in a more Sharia based way. So we have all this work needs to be. Now the question is said, is this something new I'm saying? No, they know this. But the industry pressure, the bottom line, just give you an example. University of Pennsylvania president McGill, Liz McGill resigned. Do you know what ground? Because there was a free speech in the United States protected by the First Amendment. So there was a anti-Israel protest, pro-Palestinian protest, and also now since it is so much injustice, so of course there are more pro-Palestinian protests than the pro-Israeli protest. So since they are losing in this perception or public uh, advocacy thing, now they are saying that we are being feel threatened, by this group. You have to be even-handed. How do you become even-handed there? They are being killed, and you killed there only 1,200. After that, not a single one was killed, right? But you have killed 30,000, and my family is killed. So so they were forced, this lady, because she was not even-handed. And in this question, when they were bombarded, the question is, in the freedom of speech, also I'm learning something. So let's say I want to kill your first name, brother? Nehal. I want to kill Nehal. Okay. So it's okay, according to your First Amendment, protected speech, unless it becomes an action. Actually, unless I kill you. But it never happened anywhere. So they're using this, they are trying to force her to say that is wrong. But she cannot say this because she is under the first protection, but she has all the other mechanisms. So when I say, I want to kill Nihal, there will be someone to say that actually I do not kill you, right? This is what the university's role is, not more than that. But do you know, ultimately she was forced to resign because all the corporate sector, this Jewish lobby, want to withdraw funding from University of Pennsylvania. And University of Pennsylvania, what does it? It leases a, just another piece of cake, just thrown out because I need $100 million to keep it. So you see now the whole world, this duplicity of the Western, the humanitarian, all this beautiful world they teach us, and you come and give a lecture, then that is become open now. People are seeing it. But we have to keep this tempo going on because they have a counter mechanism as well. Once the war is over, killing everyone, then they will try to come up with different narrative. They will try to tell lies and so on. One thing I learned from my friend from Gaza, actually I was in Bahrain and some of the teaching, one person told me, very interesting, that 1400 they talk about, the number is not right, first of all. Secondly, the majority of these people were killed by the Israeli security forces because they could not differentiate between who is a Hamas and not Hamas. And the Hamas, the core group, they did the operation only for 2 hours. They went, they attacked this military base, and they took out a lot of intelligence from there. And the Israeli government is more serious about this intelligence because they have all the information. Who are the crooks sitting in all Arab countries? And they have sent it to Iran and Turkey. Now they are more worried about this thing, and the people they have taken out, the majority of the taken out non-Hamas people. When they say so the gate is open, they came out. Whatever they found a car, they found a man, woman, everyone they take it down. So right now the negotiation breaks down, whatever, because they are not under the Israeli control. All the remaining hostages they are holding by different people, and nobody knows who they are. Now, the response is not like killing everyone. They think the tunnel, this and that. They are not in the tunnel. They are not stupid, right? They are not going to put in the tunnel because they know they are going to hit the next time. The point I'm trying to say, narrative they are being created, the raping, this and that, is totally wrong. Even Israeli media is telling that these are concocted. And the lie they are selling, the lie President Biden talks, even one time he said that, I don't believe the numbers. They are being killed. But what kind of response is this? I'm saying what Hamas did, I mean, not Hamas or Hamas, these groups killed innocent people, is against our religion. I definitely condemn this. But I also condemn the merciless killing that is happening in Israel right now, right? In the eyes of the Western world. They are not right now, yesterday there was in 3 times the United Nations history, usually when you want to bring a proposal, a group gets in, they put the proposal. But the Secretary General has a prerogative. If he sees something, and he can put a proposal. Everyone supported the ceasefire except the United States. Because United States so much emboldened to Israel. Because you know why? Don't put everything on the Jews. They're all over the world. They control everything. CNN, MSNBC, everywhere. So if you want to really do good to the world, not to kill anyone, do good. Even the Israelis to teach a good lesson that, look, be a good civil person. We need to occupy this knowledge, the business, and so on. And Quran teaches us to be that. The one of this conclusion I want to say, we are staying away from the Quranic teaching. We have to go back to this. We have become ritualistic Muslim. We go and 5 times a pray, and as soon as get out of the mosque, we forget everything what Allah has said, or what even I said in during Kirat. Do good to other people, this and that, help each other. We have to come back that the value system. And the West has taken this value system from us. If I live in the United States, I can do Islamic finance better than I can do in Malaysia, I can tell you. Because if I criticize, the Malaysian security force will come, hey, what you're doing? I'm saying You have to be careful what, but I do not have to be careful in the United States. I can openly speak my mind. I can do research. So come back to the United States, some of the scholars, that you can do more meaningful work. Another last thing, there are tons of research, rich literature in Arabic language. Unfortunately, the English speaking, like Prof and me, because we don't read Arabic, we are not benefiting from that rich literature. So there has to be a translation service. So one of the research could be like you brother English, Arabic speaking, take on a classic book, translate this in English. Or a new book came out, is very good, translate this English so that you can benefit from it. That would be my request.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kabir, for the response. I like the idea of establishing a mass publication about Islamic finance, Islamic economics, where that is only the possible way where where the integration should take place, and then there will be like these teenagers, when they come out, they have different value system. So all in all, thank you, Prof. Kabir, for your visit here today and giving us the opportunity to engage more with you. I think with that, we end our session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, I met and I met her again. She said that she's going to give me $1 million ringgit.
You will help us getting that.
Sure. Thank you. One more question. Can I take a picture, ladies and Prof?
Kabir, you can stand here.
Oh, I can
You
come
can
here.
stand here.
Then everybody,
Yeah, better. But I know, but I want to take a picture for
we can do that, no problem, no problem. Yeah.
So just, yeah, Prof. Oh, we just do this. Yeah, I hardly have any surgery, right? Well, it happens to all people. Yes. Yeah, you want to use it.
Okay, kita minta tolong student ke depan.